The Chilika Lake is a brackish water lagoon spread over about 1,000 square kilometers in the eastern Indian state of Orissa. It flows into the Bay of Bengal and is the largest lagoon in India and the second largest in the world. It is also the largest wintering ground for migratory birds, with more than 160 species seen in the peak migratory season, from as far as the Caspian Sea, Lake Baikal, Aral Sea, and other remote parts of Russia, Mongolia, Central and Southeast Asia, Ladakh, and the Himalayas. A visit to the Chilika Lagoon is incomplete without a visit to the Mangaljodi marshlands, located on the northern bank. It's a community-owned and managed wildlife conservation venture and hosts more than 300,000 birds in its marshy waters in the migratory season. It is fast becoming a global birders' paradise. My camera was an apology for filming birds, more so when I was surrounded by photographers with lenses that looked like howitzers and bazookas. Moreover, one of the two cameras immediately malfunctioned, and I was lucky that I had a backup, though that ran out of battery pretty soon. Satiated at seeing more than a couple of dozen species, none of which I could identify, it was time to hit the Chilika Lagoon and head for the Sea Mouth, a single narrow channel that connects the lagoon to the Bay of Bengal. The Chilika Lake provides food and sustenance to all the villages that surround it, and almost everywhere on the lagoon one finds nets with which the local villagers catch their fish and crabs. Short of the Sea Mouth, we stopped at the ODA Survival School field base. The landmass across the water is the last stretch of land between the mainland and the Bay of Bengal. It is also the island where we were planning to camp for the next few days. The boat ride from the field base to the Sea Mouth takes about half an hour, and there are a lot of tourists, largely locals, who visit the Sea Mouth every day. The locally made wooden boats are fitted with generator sets and propelled by a small propeller fitted at the end of a long bamboo pole. And they are loud. One can hear them from miles away, disturbing the tranquility of the lagoon. Finally, a short boat ride later, we were at the campsite.
I'm at the Chilika Sea Mouth, and I'm coming here after a few months, about a year, a little more than a year. And I only came back to this place because it was pristine in its cleanliness and its beauty, right next to the Bay of Bengal. That's why I came here, to conduct my next course. And from the time I stepped off the boat at the edge of the lake alongside the Bay of Bengal, I am seeing this. There's this whole campaign being run by the government of India about making India clean. They call it Swachh Bharat. It is not the government's responsibility to keep this place clean. It is our responsibility. And just look around. There's trash everywhere. And if I, as an outdoors person, I, as a trainer in nature, if I bring people here and if I tell them about leaving no trace, about leaving the place better than they found it, they're going to laugh at my face. Just look at what's behind me. Just look at all this rubbish. And this is just everywhere. This is just not done. It's not the government's responsibility. It is my responsibility. It is your responsibility. We have to keep this place clean. Who's going to pick up this trash? I brought it in. I need to take it out. And when you come to a place like this, you come for its peace, its solitude, its tranquility. And yet, we have people out there who have come in their boats and they've got blaring music which can be heard a couple of miles away. You can do that back at home, no? Why do you need to come here and spoil the solitude? When will we learn? This is absolute rubbish. Literally. There's rubbish everywhere. I'm cleaning this place up. At least what little I can around my campsite. Would I bring people again here? I don't know. Not if it's like this. Who's responsible? It's me. It's other people like me who come here. It's not the government. The government can only tell me to keep the place clean. I need to clean it, keep it clean. I need to carry my rubbish out. If this carries on, if I were the government, I would stop people coming here. Because they're screwing up this place. I'm so disappointed it's not funny. Leave no trace, my foot. So we're at the first campsite and we just set up a fireplace. I'll show you that in a bit. What Sam is now doing is making a mattress, collecting pine needles, ridding the needles of all the twigs, branches, so that it doesn't get poked at night. And what I told him is it needs to be at least a foot deep for adequate insulation. He's been at it for about almost an hour now and he's reached a 1/4 inch depth. He still has at least another 11 3/4 inches to go to make a reasonably insulated, decent mattress to sleep on. Losing light, maybe another couple of hours. So we'll need to set up our camp, we need to find a lot more firewood, get some water and settle down for the night. It's going to be darkish from about 5:30, I would suspect. And yeah, today's full moon actually. We're next to the Bay of Bengal, in the middle of this pine forest. There are no coconut trees, unfortunately, but we'll have a full moon tonight, and that should be interesting. I'll catch you in a bit. It's a little after 5, about 5:20 actually in the evening. The sun has gone down, it's getting dark. We've set up the camp, we've set up our fire pit where we'll be cooking our dinner in a while. Let me just show you quickly the tent. In my previous expeditions you would have seen this particular tent which I've used. This has a mesh in front. It's about a 3.5 feet high, 4 feet wide, 7 feet tall single man tent. At a pinch maybe 2 people can sleep in it. And this is the one Sam is going to be sleeping in. Now what I have done is made another one which is very similar to this, but I've made one modification. If you can see this is the new tent that I built, and what I have done is I've put in an additional flap. If I can just take that off, difficult to do it with one hand on the camera. So this is a flap which gets velcroed out here. What this essentially will do is stop the wind, and I do have a top sheet which I can put on top of this, that I would put if it's either too windy, too cold, or maybe if it's raining. But for the moment, that's the way it is. Sam has got a fleece blanket. I don't see it, but he's got a fleece blanket. I don't have a fleece blanket. What I'm using is, maybe I'll be able to show it to you better tomorrow in the morning. What I have is this double-sided thermal blanket. Now this will reflect my body heat back, and this is orange, which I can double up as a signaling device. It's also waterproof, so at a pinch, if I don't have this tent, I can turn this, use it as a top sheet, possible. And what I have is this, which is an inflatable mattress. I'm hoping that I'll not be as cold as I have been sometimes without a mattress under me. What we've also put below the tents is a lot of pine needles, and that'll hopefully insulate us a little more. This is our fire pit, and Sam is here looking at some kindling, tearing off some pine needles, and we've got a bunch of that behind him there. This is our fire pit. We've dug a little hole, put a wall of stones. This would be a kindling. There's more kindling there. There's a bit of firewood here. There's a lot of firewood, not a lot, but a fair bit of firewood. We're going to be here for 3 or 4 days. And it's windy. The wind is coming in from the sea. If you can see the sea, there across that beach is the Bay of Bengal. Because of the wind, I'm a little worried about the fire, so what I've done is taken out the top sheet that I was talking about, top sheet for the tent. I found 3 poles, converted these 3 poles into a tripod, and I've wrapped the top sheet all around these poles. So the wind is coming from behind the top sheet, if you can see, and the fire is going to be protected from the wind thanks to this top. It's about 4 or 5 feet away from the fire, and because the wind is coming from the top into the fire and towards this area, so I hope the top doesn't get too warm and start to melt. That won't be nice. So what I could have done, which is spend a lot more energy, is gather a lot more stones and build a higher stone wall around the fire to protect it from the wind. I wanted to conserve energy. Anything in the outdoors, try and conserve energy as much as possible. So this is an experiment I'm doing with the top sheet wrapped around a tripod to protect the fire from the wind, which was really gusting some time ago. And We'll be cooking dinner in a while. This is a luxury that I've brought this time, which is, well, it's like a grill grate. So I've lost my meal on a fire many times. Just trying to balance my nesting cup on a couple of rocks, little disbalance, and my food gets into the fire and I sleep hungry. So this is a luxury item I brought this time. So my food, while it's cooking, it's a lot more stable in the fire. So just left camp, and like I was showing you yesterday, it is absolute rubbish. It's so much of trash. That's not a good place to camp. Otherwise, this area is such a wonderful place. So I'm out on a hike to recce this entire area to find some good camping spots. There are lots of camping spots actually, if only there was no rubbish. We are walking with the Bay of Bengal on my left, and we've got the Chilika Lake on the right, which you can see. So you can see the Chilika Lake. It's a biodiversity park, lots of migratory birds, and lots of tourists on those boats in the distance. You can probably hear the sound better than you can see the boat. That's how loud those boats are. And the problem with this area that I'm in, where I was hoping to camp, and I am camping, is this kind of area. This is the beach, and that's where the boats would dock. Maybe if I do that, you can see it a little better. That's where the boat would dock. The people would come up, carrying all their gas stoves and utensils and crockery and cutlery and what have you. And by the time they leave, this is what they leave behind. This is so unfortunate, because this is such a pristine piece of God's earth, and we are pretty successfully screwing it up entirely. A few months ago, I think it was a little over a year ago when I was here, this used to be clean, but with more and more tourists, with more and more of these boats, and more people who have absolutely no clue about nature, how to respect it, how to work with it, how to live with it, they leave behind all this rubbish. What I'm trying to do is find some spots which have still not been invaded by civilization. By definition, this rubbish, this trash, this garbage has been left behind by civilized people. It's a shame.
Tourists come to visit the sea mouth, and that is where much of the rubbish is concentrated. A little beyond the forest rest house, the place became a lot cleaner and devoid of trash. Apart from an odd bottle or styrofoam plate, the place was quite pristine in its landscape.
This seems to be perfect shelter location. In fact, this location, this whole meadow, grassland actually, seems like an option. Except there's a whole lot of cow dung, and there are a lot of feral cows and buffaloes here. And it seems that that's a location where these bovines would be camping for the night. I don't think they'll appreciate our taking over their space. But one immediate thing which has happened just after we crossed the forest office, guest house, whatever it was, the garbage has disappeared. That's another location. Pretty decent shelter location. Both here and there. So without too much effort, conserving your energy, one could rig up a shelter for the night. Quite happy with this place actually. And there's debris. Debris means raw material for shelter as well as raw material for firewood. But even on this location, there's cow dung. Let's move off the flat towards the Bay of Bengal and scout that area.
The entire area is full of resources to make debris shelters, with the trees providing a canopy, and using the debris lying around, shelters can be made pretty quickly. And dead logs that will be used as firewood. There are quite a few locations that make for good campsites, as long as we stay out of the way of the feral cows and bulls. The rains can be quite wild here, and every few years a major cyclone comes visiting. That is when the trees are uprooted and the forest goes through a phase of destruction. Much of the vegetation is pine trees, which is unexpected for a tropical island. I would have expected coconut trees, but there are none on this island. Which makes water procurement a challenge. Prickly pears can provide a bit of hydration, but the only way to make drinking water is through desalination. There is a freshwater well at the sea mouth, but that is a hike, and it can become a very tiring exercise, especially when it is hot and humid. The area that we've been hiking through is parallel to the sea and protected from the winds due to the high sandbanks. As soon as one crests the sandbank, the wind coming in from the sea can become quite strong. Thankfully, despite all the tourists that visit this place in hundreds of boats every day, the beach itself is quite peaceful and clean. Not too many people and hardly any trash. And even though this is on the eastern coast, the sunset is quite spectacular. The camera was highly inadequate to capture the beauty though.
It's time for lunch, and thanks to the gourmet chef Sam, we got a very, very decent meal. What I have, I'll just show you. That's the pan it was cooked in. And what we have is rice, we have a bit of lentils, and the luxuries are a couple of eggs. The red pieces you see there are tomatoes, and there is some onions. The tomatoes and onions were sauteed in mustard oil. The eggs and the rice and the lentils were cooked together in the single pan. And that's a meal. Time for lunch. Cheers. And to give the chef his due, there he is.
And that dune beyond the beach is where we had camped. From the sea mouth, the island extends almost 10 kilometers to the south, and as long as one hikes beyond the trash, almost any place is good enough to camp. At the head of the lagoon, just about the point where it meets the Bay of Bengal, is a small island. It looked very inviting, and we decided to pay it a visit. Just a few feet above the water level, I suspect it's submerged in the monsoons. Fishermen dock here, as also a few tourists, evidence of which was seen in the form of the tourist signature, trash. I also found a couple of portable toilets, probably for the use of visitors, but both were locked, with no caretaker in sight. The island has shrubs and no trees, and I suspect it is buffeted by the incoming winds pretty fiercely. Seems like heavy fishing grounds, though.
This is a small little island at the edge of the Bay of Bengal, where the Chilika Lake empties into the sea. Small island, not too many large trees, but trash has found itself even here. A lot of fishing nets. I guess a lot of people, the local villagers, all of Chilka actually, sustenance for them is fishing in this lake, brackish water lake. Wonderful island, and this is giving me ideas. 30 days living as a castaway right here.